Well, the virus has now killed more than 100 people in China, and new cases have been confirmed around the world.
So you don't want to frighten the American public.
France and South Korea have also got evacuation plans.
But you need to prepare for and assume.
Strongly warning Americans to avoid all non-essential travel to China.
That this is going to be a real serious problem.
France, Australia, Canada, the US, Singapore, Cambodia, Vietnam, the list goes on.
Health officials are investigating more than 100 possible cases in the US.
Germany, a man has contracted the virus.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
Japan, where a bus driver contracted the virus.
Coronavirus has killed more than 100 people there and infected more than 4,500.
We have to prepare for the worst, always, because if you don't and the worst happens.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
So we can't face this challenge alone. The United Nations, NATO, the G7 countries, the G20, our combined economic, diplomatic, and military power is surely enough to meet this challenge if we direct it clearly and with great courage. Maybe it's time for a new grouping of like-minded nations, a new alliance of democracies. We have the tools. I know we can do it. Now we need the will. To quote scripture, I ask, is our spirit willing, but our flesh weak? If the free world doesn't change, communist China will surely change us. There can't be a return to the past practices because they're comfortable or because they're convenient. Securing our freedoms from the Chinese Communist Party is the mission of our time, and America is perfectly positioned to lead it because our founding principles give us that opportunity.
Welcome back to the War Room, Friday, July the 24th, the year of our Lord, 24th, sorry, the year of our Lord, 2020. You're in the War Room with Jack Posobiec, Jack Maxey, and Raheem Kassam on America's Voice.news, on Newsmax TV, on the John Fredericks Radio Network, and blown through the CCP's firewall, G News and GTV, subtitled in Mandarin. Stephen K. Bannon joins us down the line, but Jack, I think we wanted to start off with you here.
Yeah, I think we wanted to inform our listeners. We've been following the floods in China along the Yangtze River, and we've been talking about some of the effects that are occurring inside the Chinese economy that are not necessarily being reported in the news. We know today we've been following the flooding along the Yangtze for many, many weeks, long before the mainstream media has even picked up on it. And China is now in a kind of a catch-22. Imagine the Yangtze River being bisected by the Three Gorges Dam, and you have Wuhan to the east, and you have Chongqing to the west. Chongqing is a city that is larger than Wuhan. We have flooding in the upper reaches on the side of Chongqing, and we have flooding in the lower reaches. We are literally within a foot or two of breaching the walls around Wuhan, which are 27 feet high. So imagine this. If you are on the street in Wuhan, you are 27 feet below the river, which is right next door to you. Chongqing is already flooding as we speak, so there's going to have to be a choice made. Do we sacrifice Wuhan by letting out more water to save Chongqing, or vice versa? They really don't have a choice here. There's also a lot of criticism that we're beginning to see inside the Chinese media about how they have been covering the flood internally. In recent days, they've been putting up lots of posts about happy workers, happy soldiers working along the dikes. They showed them they had a birthday party for one of the soldiers, and they made mud pies and all this stuff. And it's been very happy clappy. And your average Chinaman is now getting very, very angry because they're seeing the mainstream media, and they actually know what is going on in the ground. So this Yangtze River flood is another chance for the Chinese people to really see the duplicity of their own government. They have been releasing water from the dams, the Three Gorges Dam, in the middle of the night. This is done so that they can blame it on the weather rather than on the dam, because if it's the dam, the Chinese government has liability. 25% of all their food production is in the Yangtze River Valley. Just recently, a few days ago, the Chinese Communist Party announced that they had a record harvest in the Northeast, which is where their main grain producing area is. This, I am going to say here on global television, has to be a lie. They've been suffering a drought in the Northeast, And what's been very interesting within the Chinese press, their official organs, they have begun talking about how the dams are doing the best that they can. You know, we have to be concerned about the future, but we have to be prepared for the worst, things like this. And when we talk about the food situation, Xi said just recently that they have to be concerned about the grain more than anything because the rice bowl of the Chinese people in any situation must be firmly held in our own hands. He says when China was hit hard by the coronavirus, the country's top leadership, this is not a quote from him, but this is from Xinhua today, this morning, the top leadership urged all-out efforts to organize spring plowing while taking differentiated anti-epidemic measures so that farmers don't miss the farming season and a good summer harvest could be guaranteed. Stable grain production has been listed as one of the nation's top priorities as measures conducive to agriculture. They say the most pressing issue is to provide food for 1.4 billion people. Now, this does not sound like the verbiage coming out of a government that is confident that they had just brought it in the largest grain harvest in history. They are headed for some serious, serious problems, and you're also seeing inside the mainland Chinese press now, they are reporting on the locusts in the southwest that have been coming across the border. They are taking this seriously. There's been lots of stuff on the chat groups coming out of China of individual farmers saying this is absolute nonsense. We didn't harvest anything. And the harvests that were going to be done this summer along the Yangtze floodplain are now all underwater. Something to pay attention to, people, and we're always glad to keep you informed first.
Steve.
You know, we didn't take the warning of Rosemary Gibson. We still don't have an executive order. We still don't have any action I've seen to bring the medical supply chain back. And I got to tell you, if these dams break or if they start letting out the water in a certain way and flood this, you're going to have, you know, people are saying 60 to 80% of the APIs are made in the Yangtze River Valley. Could be 60 to 80% of the generic drug manufacturing. So this is a serious problem for people here in the United States. Once again, we haven't taken the action we need to start bringing the supply chains back, start to make efforts, but not enough urgency. This is an urgent issue that the American people have to demand that their politicians, their political do this. And this is, I got to tell you, that dam was supposed to be a 1,000-year dam. Then the media shifted it to 100 years. And this, every information, every report we're getting, and we're getting flooded because we were the first group really start putting this up and having a show. Tomorrow we're going to do a 2-hour special on the plague, on the pandemic in China, what it's meant for the world. We're going to do about this flood. We're also going to talk about the Chinese people and their empowerment to try to overthrow the Chinese Communist Party. Miles Guo will be my guest. We'll do a solid 2 hours in going through these details. But we were ahead of this story, and it only gets, just like the story in Chicago, it only gets worse and worse and worse. I want to pivot back to, in the time we've got, because I know we've got some new reporting that's going to take place in the next segment about Harvard and the cheerleaders for the Chinese Communist Party's infiltration of the United States. But Sobek, I want to go to you. We talked about, Dave Ramaswamy kind of gave it the term, the Alliance for Liberty, that the Alliance for Liberty is really lining up. And I think when people think of the Chinese Communist Party, think of who their allies are in trying to consolidate the Eurasian landmass. Pakistan, North Korea, Iran, the mullahs in Iran, Turkey, and Russia, right? You have guys that have either totalitarian dictatorships or essentially one-party states. And that's who their allies are. Now you're seeing the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, UAE, the Gulf Emirates. They're all looking to the Empire of China. They want to supply them oil. And it looks like, to me, they're trading out and selling out the United States. Anytime there's an important vote, like on Hong Kong, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and UAE back the Chinese Communist Party. I think this Alliance of Liberty is a real thing. Jack, as a former naval intelligence officer, what is your assessment of when Pompeo laid it out like that?
Well, Steve, that's exactly right, and I think he used the phrase "alliance of democracies," which is definitely, I don't know if he he may have pilfered that from War Room, but maybe some of the talking points made their way into the State Department. And what he's really doing is looking at America through not only our strategic relationships in terms of our military, but also in terms of our force posture around the world, also our economic relationships, those countries that we've worked with to keep those sea lines of communication going in the South China Sea amidst the Chinese, and it's really been a Chinese aggression in the South China Sea, pushing forward with their military, building artificial islands in international waters and then declaring it on their own. If China's given a free hand to continue to do that wherever they see fit, they're going to do it on land coming soon. We've already seen them using these debt trap diplomacies around the world. This is going on in Africa, where they're starting to build military bases. We're seeing it in Sri Lanka in some cases, where they're using to get porting to be used as pressure on India, so they can also have a sort of a midpoint stop as their ships go between Africa through the Indian Ocean and back to China. So they're trying to push out in terms of their naval forces, their military forces, to become that blue water navy that we've talked about so many times on here. Now they're putting together their own network of allies against us. You know, I almost think what I don't know, maybe I open up to you guys. What do you think we should call their side?
That's a good question.
Well, listen, one thing I want. Yeah.
Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, one thing I want to ask you, Jack, do you see also the connections? You talk about the Alliance of Liberty, the Alliance of Democracy. On the streets now of Portland, the streets of Seattle, you have these chasses, you have these really areas of anarchy, but if you look at it, they're very anti-democratic, and they really follow a neo-Maoist approach. They are very much the Red Guard. Do you see, and I'm not talking about direct financial support, but do you see definitely ideological support of what the Chinese Communist Party is doing throughout the world and what you're seeing in Seattle, Portland, and now in Chicago?
Well, Steve, as I have identified many times, the Chinese Communist Party has multiple running dogs. And even though there may not be this financial support or logistic support, these are definitely running dogs of the Chinese Communist Party because they seek the same goals: the subversion, the insurrection, the constant neutralization of America. If we're turning inward to deal with our own problems, then we can't deal with this situation that's going on, right? You've got to walk and chew gum at the same time. Unfortunately, I think this president can. You've got a situation now where they, and also in terms of their ideology, it lines up exactly with these neo-Marxist ideas that harken back to the Little Red Book and the Red Guards of China during the Communist Revolution. You're seeing the toppling of statues. Of course, that is endemic to these cultural revolutions, to color revolutions that we've seen around the world. This all goes back to Mao. This goes back to that same playbook: destroy the old and replace it with yourselves.
Raheem, I want to toss it back to you for a second. You've been warning people about this for years in the Labour Party in the United Kingdom. You said this was spreading throughout Europe. It was much farther advanced than people saw. Do you see a common ideology, a kind of this cultural Marxism that ties these together?
Specifically,
well, with Corbyn, you had in the Corbyn aspect, you had Corbyn. You remember for years they embraced the Palestinians. They were virulently anti-Semitic, anti-Israel. You had this kind of convergence of radical jihad meeting kind of the secular cultural Marxism. That really got into a fever swamp. I think it's one of the reasons that not only the rise of UKIP, but also Brexit, and I think that this overwhelming victory the Tories had last time was a rejection of that. But do you see a connection of what they've been doing, and particularly now you've got in the United Kingdom, they went through this whole aspect of desecrating statues to Lincoln, desecrating statues to Gandhi, desecrating statues to Winston Churchill. Do you see a commonality in this kind of neo-Maoism?
Well, look, I mean, for me, the bigger dovetailing was always with the big corporate interests in Brussels, and the kind of neo-Marxist Jeremy Corbyn Labour Party were kind of reluctant bag carriers for the corporate interests. I mean, it was one of these really strange, unholy alliances that you had, because of course Jeremy Corbyn and his ilk were the primary opponents to the European Union and European Union expansion back in the 70s, but things drastically changed since then, and the Corbynistas, certainly the Corbyn type of base that you don't just see in the United Kingdom, you see all across Europe, ended up being the front people really politically for the big corporate interests in Europe. But it was really the corporate driving interest in Brussels, which is why the Chinese Communist Party, you'll see them lauding Angela Merkel and lauding the types of things that are coming out of the establishment left political parties across Europe. But as you say, yes, those guys are in tow. We'll be back with more War Room Pandemic after this short break.
The hottest new razor is taking the men's grooming world by storm. And if you don't have it, you need it. Micro Touch Solo, the hyper-advanced full-body razor that trims, shapes, edges, and even shaves with micro precision. And it's totally safe to the touch. Go solo for full body control with one tool. No nicks, bumps, or ingrown hairs. Edge beards and goatees with one touch. Clean your neck, barber shop perfect. And check this out. Snap on the guide to tame growth and perfectly shape your full beard. And keep new growth stubble trimmed exactly to your style. And look, the Solo Full Body Groomer trims precisely the length of hair you want. Snap off the guide and remove unwanted hair anywhere in seconds. What makes Solo different than your ordinary razor? Dual-sided German stainless steel blade. Shave up or down at 200 microstrokes per second. The Ultra Flex pivoting head contours perfectly to you for precise results. 3 custom grooming guides for control of exact length and shape. And a built-in LED light so you never miss a spot. Solo is so precise, you need no creams, no soaps, and no water. Ditch the old man clippers and toss the scissors. You've got to go solo. Call 1-800-709-9777 or go online at microtouchsolo.com and get yours now for only $19.99. Complete with German stainless steel blade, pivoting head, built-in spotlight, and 3 custom grooming guides. Everything you see here for just $19.99. The all-new MicroTouch Solo Full Body Groomer. The one tool that does it all.
America's Voice News brings you real news and real opinion in a real world. If you care about this country, then you can help by sharing America's Voice with your friends and family. We're here to bring you the truth with no agendas. America is one of the greatest countries of all time. We need a great leader to keep us on track and safe. If you support this president, then help us by being a beacon of hope and standing up for this great nation. Join us as we fight to bring you the truth in a crazy world. Search America's Voice News on all apps, Roku, Pluto TV, and Dish Network Channel 219. Please help by downloading America's Voice News to your phone, on your smart TV. Search America's Voice on all your internet-connected devices. Then share the truth with your friends and family. America's Voice News, the real news network. Join the America's Voice revolution and consider yourself an American patriot.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Welcome back to the War Room. 2020, as you know, has been a gut punch to American business. And if you're going to succeed, you need every possible advantage. Smart companies run on NetSuite by Oracle, the world's #1 cloud business system. Get your free guide right now, netsuite.com/Bannon. Welcome back to the show. We're bringing in now a special guest down the line. Natalie Winters is the senior writing fellow at the National Pulse. You can get all of her work at thenationalpulse.com. And if you like it, make sure you go to nationalpulse.com/support. Natalie, welcome back to the show. The audience was really tickled pink last time you were on. You did an amazing job of walking us through one of your big scoops. You got another one on your hands here. So talk to us about this. Harvard's Ash Center and the Chinese Communist Party. Let's start at the very top, Natalie. What is Harvard's Ash Center?
Sure. Well, in the Chinese Communist Party's long march through American institutions, the Harvard Kennedy schools Ash Center for Democratic Governance and Innovation is the latest target. They've been bought and paid for by the Chinese Communist Party and their state-owned enterprises to the tune of millions of dollars. And as a result, this center has pumped out studies and reports lauding the Chinese Communist Party and, frankly, in an obsequious manner, as well as partnering with Chinese universities to train high-level party apparatchiks. Specifically, the center recently made headlines, that is in Chinese state media, for publishing a study hailing the Chinese Communist Party as, quote, strong as ever, having, quote, earned its legitimacy, and as resilient, despite failing to mention any of the Hong Kong protests you see going on or how their botched response to coronavirus would have impacted popular support for the regime. Again, those are terms that Harvard would never use to describe President Trump, but when you dig down into who's writing this study, you come across two individuals, Tony Seitch and Edward Cunningham.
Okay, wait, Natalie, slow down. Sure. There's a lot there. We gotta go through. We got 10 minutes. Okay, so we'll be very slow about this. What is the Ash Center? What is the Ash Center supposed to do? How long has the Ash Center been around? Because I go through this story, and it's a great story. It's 1,085 words on the National Pulse, and you can go through it and see for yourself who the donors are and who these. And we're gonna get into this right now. But what I'm concerned about here is we talk about the usurpation of academia in the United States. We don't often talk about, okay, who's giving the money? The CCP is giving the money. These dodgy donors and apparatchiks on behalf of the CCP are pushing this stuff out there. Fine. But how does a center come to exist like this at Harvard in the first instance? And what is their so-called rationale versus what they're actually doing? Because here's what I see. I saw a couple of weeks ago there was a debate going on, and I can't remember who the two people were, but there were senior government people, and somebody chimed in and they said, well, actually, no, I'll tell you, I do remember off the top of my head now, Natalie, it was the ambassador of China to the United Kingdom, goes on the BBC and cites this Ash Center study, says we are popular in our country, the CCP is popular amongst ordinary Chinese people because Harvard's Ash Center says we are, right? That's where this came from. So how does information like this get laundered through Harvard's Ash Center, and who is Harvard's Ash Center? Just explain that to us. Then we'll get on to who's donating.
Sure. Well, it's part of Harvard's Kennedy School, which is a graduate program that obviously Harvard, one of the top universities in the country, hosts. And for instance,
the Kennedy Center, Natalie, being, I'm sorry to Jack Maxey you here, but the Kennedy Center being one of the foremost political institutions in academia in this country, right?
Yes, and since at least 2001, they've been collaborating with the Chinese Communist Party, offering a program in which they train party members, bringing them overseas to the United States to visit facilities such as State Department, meet with congressmen and senators, and even the Washington Post. And it speaks to what you're talking about, Raheem, and that it's the establishment's failed policy of engaging China, hoping that if we open up the doors to them and bring them overseas and show them our ways, show them Harvard, free, open academic discourse, although it certainly has deteriorated slightly, that they would come to appreciate the American way of democracy and a free and open exchange of ideas, but evidently that has not materialized.
So talk to us then about why this piqued your interest when you started looking into the Harvard Center. Who are the donors? What points you to the Chinese Communist Party? And who are the people that are operating the Ash Center? Because I sense a Natalie Winters 1-2 punch here, with the second punch still to come. Talk to us about these people.
Sure. Well, the two individuals who spearheaded this study are Tony Seitch and Edward Cunningham. Edward Cunningham, in the course of 3 years, took in $2.3 million from China Southern Power Grid, which is a state-owned enterprise that operates, obviously, in the south of China, and along with $3.9 million over another window of 3 years from the Tianfu Group, which is a company which, if you look at their board, completely administered by party members and even party leaders in some cases. And Tony Seitch, he lists himself as an advisor to both American companies seeking to do business in China and even Chinese companies lists himself as helping them navigate the Chinese business landscape. And something interesting about Mr. Sage is that he's on the board of trustees for AMC, which is a movie theater chain, an American movie theater chain that was notoriously sold out to China in 2012. He's also a member of the National Committee on U.S.-China Relations, which is a swampy pro-China lobbying group that we've also exposed at the National Pulse. But these are the two individuals who spearheaded the study, meaning that the Chinese Communist Party at best has some form of influence and at worst complete coercion and control over the type of research that this Ash Center is putting out and the programs that it's running.
Natalie, let's go to the donors here and how this all comes together. Because as you say, this has been going on for some years, so much so that you've actually seen USAID, the U.S. Department of State, the U.S. Department of the Army and National Guard Homeland Security Institute donating to this same center that is clearly laundering Chinese Communist Party information into the Western world. And I've no doubt that those donations came under the Obama administration. But we go through more of them here. You've got Amway China, the Atlantic Philanthropies, Bloomberg Philanthropies, Booz Allen Hamilton, the Commonwealth Fund, Dow Jones, Fannie Mae Foundation, IBM, Kawasaki Heavy Industries, New World China Enterprises, the Rockefeller Foundation, State Street Corporation. This goes on and on and on. We're now seeing, as Steve and others have noted in the first hour of this show, that the corporates are actually starting to feel the heat when it comes to the Chinese Communist Party and their collaborations with them, whether it's Robert O'Brien, whether it's Attorney General Bill Barr, whether it's Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. They're really twisting the knife on this stuff. So how much more of this is going to come out? And specifically, just explain to us a little bit about what you're working on now as a follow-up to this.
Well, Tony Seitch, along with Edward Cunningham, I've reached out to Harvard for comment and not heard back yet, but they run basically an admissions consulting firm that they say they work, quote, exclusively with Chinese students seeking to study in the United States. So there's definitely some revolving door between the credentials that they have and connections that they have at Harvard and helping students, really the princelings of the Chinese Communist Party, come overseas and study at Harvard.
Natalie, it's Jack Maxey. I think a lot of things you're talking about today really reflect some of the words from Secretary Pompeo yesterday, particularly when we're talking about mainland Chinese students. He said, and I quote, we know too that not all Chinese students and employees are just normal students and workers that are coming here to make a little bit of money and to garner themselves some knowledge. Too many of them come here to steal our intellectual property and to take this back to their home country. It sounds to me like this is a concerted kind of espionage effort that is really like an octopus almost in its tentacles.
Precisely, and like Raheem said, as he was going down and naming the lists of all these establishment think tanks and huge American companies that have donated to the center, it really speaks to how our businesses, our establishments, even our politicians have aided and abetted the rise of China, hoping that they would see the merits of democracy, see the merits of the American way, but these hopes have never materialized, and frankly, they're just assisting the CCP in their quest to turn American classrooms into effectively theaters of war for their propaganda and disinformation campaigns, a whole step beyond just the Confucius Institutes.
Hey, Natalie, when you listen to, we've got 90 seconds left here, when you listen to Secretary of State Pompeo at the Nixon Library yesterday, you're somebody who follows this, probably one of the top 20 people in the country who follows the intricacies of where the CCP's money is going and where their influence is. What do you feel is going to come off the back of this? Was there enough action in the speech? And if I may ask, what was your favorite moment?
I think his line, distrust and verify, was a historic moment. Specifically, I think him calling out these American companies, institutions that have coddled China for so long is really hitting the nail on the head. You see so many movements at Harvard to divest from the fossil fuel industry, to divest from companies that have, worked alongside President Trump. I think we need to move that energy into targeting the Chinese Communist Party, which has funneled millions of dollars into Harvard and is guilty of all the wrongdoings that the social justice
Natalie,
left.
we have to go to a break, but tell the audience your Twitter handle.
Natalie G. Winters on Twitter.
All right, fantastic, Natalie. Great job as ever. We will be welcoming you back to the War Room in short order, I'm sure, and watching for those follow-ups over at thenationalpulse.com. Make sure it's in your favorites, along with @JackPasobic on Twitter. We'll be right back.
If you suffer from foot pain, ankle pain, knee pain, hip pain, even lower back pain, if just standing causes aches, soreness, and fatigue, the problem could be your feet. When your feet are out of alignment, your entire body is out of alignment and you're in pain. Now you can change all of that today. Introducing Superthotics, the doctor-designed breakthrough that solves the problem in your feet and relieves the pain throughout your entire body. It begins with the cushioned BioLock heel cup that holds your heel and ankle in perfect alignment. Next, metatarsal and longitudinal arch supports distribute the pressure of your body weight evenly across the entire foot.
Plus, these customizable inserts, which correct the angle at which your foot hits the ground, relieving your pain with every step you take.
Imagine being able to dance, walk, work, play golf, or just spend an afternoon shopping without the aches, pains, stiffness, and poor balance that rob you of your active life.
As a flight attendant, I spend a lot of time on my feet. The moment I put the Superthotics in, I could feel a huge difference. The pain in my knees went away, the pain in my feet went away. Not only am I wearing them for work, I'm wearing them all the time.
Imagine finally getting relief from painful problems like bunions, shin splints, corns, calluses, plantar fasciitis, and even stress fractures.
Doctor-prescribed orthotics can cost $600 to $800, but you won't pay anywhere near that for Superthotics
when you call the number on your screen or go to superthotics.com. For a limited time, you'll get the manufacturer's direct price of just $39.95. Call now, and we'll also include, at no extra cost, our soothing peppermint lotion to help invigorate your feet. You will also get our luxurious comfort slippers designed with durable memory foam. You receive it all. Superthotics are not available in any store. Call or go to superthotics.com now.
Jim and Joanne are here to pick up the same prescription. They both know the system is not on their side. They both know drug costs are out of control. But one of them is taking back control with GoodRx.
Next.
So while he's paying that much, even with his insurance, she's paying this much just by using GoodRx. Use GoodRx to compare prices at pharmacies in your area and stop paying too much for your prescriptions. Download the free app today and take back control.
My son needs this drug. I hope it doesn't cost too much. I hope my insurance pays for it. Can you tell me how much this will be?
67.
Sorry.
Wait, have you heard about GoodRx? GoodRx finds free coupons to help you save up to 80% on your prescriptions.
Wow. I had no idea.
GoodRx. Stop paying too much for your prescriptions.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Well, 2020 has been a gut punch for American business, and if you're going to succeed, you need every possible advantage. NetSuite by Oracle is the world's #1 cloud business system. Smart companies run on NetSuite, and when you're doing $1 million or $100 million in sales, NetSuite lets you manage every penny with precision. So join over 20,000 companies who trust NetSuite to make it happen. They've surveyed hundreds of business leaders and assembled a playbook of the top strategies they're using as America reopens for business. The 7 actions businesses need to take. The free guide is available now at netsuite.com/Bannon. And you can also get a free product tour at netsuite.com/Bannon. You're back in the War Room. Jack Maxey, Jack Pasobic, Raheem Kassam. Thank goodness it's Friday, gentlemen, but there's no let up in the news cycle. Jack, we've got breaking news.
Yeah, breaking news, and just to point out to everybody that we don't let stories, just go away even as the news cycle kind of breaks. It used to be a 24-hour, now it's 24-second news cycle. It feels like, well, a year and a half ago there was a major news cycle because something happened to a group of kids called the Covington Catholic high school students when they came out for the pro-life march, and there was an individual named Nick Sandmann who was resoundingly attacked and vilified and lied about in many cases by the media. Now, we knew in the past that he'd settled a lawsuit with CNN, and just now he's announced that he has settled his $250 million lawsuit with the Washington Post. Now, we don't know the exact dollar amount that it's settled for, but we'll look to see if they're going to be publishing any corrections or retractions in terms of their reporting. But what we do know is that today is actually Nick Sandmann's 18th birthday.
No.
So I'd like to just wish Nick Sandmann a very happy birthday.
What a lovely present, a settlement from the Washington Post.
While we were talking about...
Nick Sandmann wants somewhere to celebrate his newfound cash, I suggest going to Morton's this afternoon.
No, well, listen. While we're talking about Nick Sandmann's 18th birthday, we love to talk about history here. This week is the 99th anniversary of the first meeting of the Chinese Communist Party in Shanghai. On 1921 from
so I've
July
been there.
23rd.
I've been where they
a little one-story brick building.
So
kind
it's
of thing.
what's amazing is that they have that preserved, but then right across the street, and this is very indicative of China today. So right across the street from that is this massive nightclub bar scene called Xintiandi, which means new heaven and earth, and it's this huge go-go nightlife kind of place right across the street from where Chairman Mao at the CCP got started. So I always think that he'd be rolling over in his mausoleum.
And to show you how things have changed, apparently the conference was going to last longer, and they were going to try and create a permanent presence there. But they were in the French district in Shanghai, and the French authorities apparently got tired of them and kicked them out.
Well, chaps, I want to make sure now that we cover some of this other breaking stuff that's going on, and then I want to get back to one of the most, important speeches, and really not just this one speech, but the four speeches, right? The four horsemen of the CCP, as Steve called them, and get back to some of the buried leads from Mike Pompeo's speech and go through that in more detail than we had time with Steve for this morning. But I also want to make mention of our friends at Citizen Free Press and Bongino Report and the other aggregators out there. I want you guys to make sure you're following them, have favorited them, whatfinger.com, all of these guys, just as long as you're not going to Drudge. That makes me very happy as well. So, chaps, on this Pompeo speech, there were so many moments, and I've got it printed out here in front of me. As the video audience has now come to know, I do like to highlight things and actually print things and go through them. I think it makes the world a difference to unpacking and understanding these things. He talks a lot about, Pompeo mentioned in 1967 in a very famous, I'm quoting him here, in a very famous Foreign Affairs article, Nixon explained his future strategy. Here's what he said. He said, taking the long view, we simply cannot afford to leave China forever outside the family of nations. The world cannot be safe until China changes. Thus our aim, to the extent we can, we must influence events. Our goal should be to induce change. And that's really why he found that he had the rationale to go to the Nixon Library yesterday and talk about this. It wasn't, as he made clear, to trash Nixon's legacy, but to rather say, Nixon tried to do something. He tried to do something novel. He tried to do something that he thought was right for not just the American people, but for the world at large. And it wasn't right. They didn't induce change. And so do you see any clear daylight, Jack Posobiec and Jack Max, do you see any clear daylight between what Nixon had in mind and the policies of the current administration?
Well, what's interesting is one thing that's quite significant that a lot of people miss is that even though Nixon was credited for going to China and starting that diplomatic relationship with the People's Republic of China, where we had none. Remember, at this point, the U.S. still and the UN still recognized Taiwan, the Republic of China, as the legitimate government of China, and Taiwan actually held that seat in the UN Security Council. Nixon and Kissinger never normalized relations with Beijing. right? They never formally recognized them. That was done later under Carter, if I remember correctly. And so this was a huge distinction in terms of their outreach because, and as I've said before, that was always an outreach of convenience. It was a necessity during the Cold War to pit them against Russia, to get them against the Soviet Union, the great test of that time, the USSR, as they were spreading their reach of communism throughout the world by getting a major communist power that's literally geographically joined at the hip with Russia was a coup, an absolute coup for, at the time, the Alliance of Democracy. So now the vestiges of that, as we've marched off in this other direction, going into the economic relationships, which started a little bit in the 1980s and then floored forward after their ascension to the WTO, which took place. I mean, it really started during the Clinton administration. Then Bush was president when it went over with Obama. You really can't tie this to any one specific president,
Sure,
because it's something that we did as a country, and it's something the West did as a group.
I just want to pick you up on something you just mentioned there, and then I want to go back to something Jack talked about at the top of the first hour as well. You talked about the coup, about having the Chinese on board when the United States was staring down the Soviet Union. Hugh Hewitt's first question in the Q&A portion yesterday for Secretary Pompeo was, does Russia present an opportunity now to the United States to coax them into the battle to be relentlessly candid about the Chinese Communist Party? What say you?
Well, I think it's interesting, right? Because obviously, Russia is not a democracy, so to be a member of that alliance of democracies is completely out for them. But at the same time, does it represent a situation where we can put China in check? And if we need to use someone to put China in check and serve our own interests, I've heard a lot of people talk about that. I'm not really sure what leverage Russia would have on China other than their geography. Quite frankly, they don't have the economic power that they once did. They don't have the global reach that they once did.
And Russia's in a fascinating problem with China as well. I follow Russia and particularly the relationship with China. And the Orthodox Church did a study that came out last October, I believe, looking at the demographic future of the Russian state. And they said, I believe, and I may be off by a few years, I think by 2060, they're going to be a majority Muslim country. This is according to the Orthodox Church in terms of geography, total geography of the country. And what's really frightening, they say by about 2090, Russia, the whole state, will be majority Chinese because of immigration into the East. That's kind of frightening.
Jack, I wanted to make mention of something you talked about in the first part of the show as well. You said there's no turning back now. It definitely felt like this speech had a significant degree of what you would call sort of finality or closure about it in terms of the position that the administration will now be taking. Specifically, phrases come to mind like, we can't treat this incarnation of China as a normal country just like any other. We know that trading with China is not like trading with a normal law-abiding nation. Beijing threatens international agreements and treats international agreements as suggestions or agreements as suggestions as conduits for global dominance. Those aren't the kind of words you use when you're sort of trying to tickle someone back to the table.
Well, I give a lot of credit to this administration for actually finally waking up to this existential threat, which is the Communist Party of China. I also give a lot of threat to Pompeo for making clear something that we've been saying.
You said threat. To Pompeo. A lot of credit to Pompeo.
I give a lot of
We don't want to give any threats to Pompeo.
I give a lot of credit for his threats. No, I give a lot of credit to this administration for defining the difference between the Communist Party of China and the Chinese people. I applaud him for acknowledging that they are really the first victims. I also, if anybody in the administration is listening, I think the president should stop calling it the China virus and start calling it the CCP virus so that the people in China can understand that really we have a mutual enemy, and it is the 90 million functionaries that repress the other 1.3 billion Chinese people into a kind of slavery.
Jack, in the broad scheme, Jack Posobiec, in the broad scheme of the importance of repetition and the importance of linguistics in an information war, how important is it so that the Secretary of State and the rest of the four horsemen of the CCP and the President of the United States are all on the same page, that the President does stop saying China virus and start saying CCP virus?
Well, I think it's important because you're defining the problem, right? And when you call it the China virus, it does open you up to that vagueness where someone can say, well, are you talking about China? Are you talking about Chinese people? Are you making it racial? Joe Biden is, of course, attacking him on that. But when you talk about the CCP, you can understand that when you're talking about the CCP, and really you're only meaning the top officials of the CCP. There's the hundreds of millions of members of the CCP, but for a lot of people, it's you join because you're in school, you're in work.
Do you think the president just likes saying China?
He does like saying China. I mean, getting him to actually change his linguistics is that would be quite a feat, because that's been something that he's been saying very uniquely for decades now.
But you mentioned Joe Biden there, and it's true that Joe Biden did go up there and say that the president has disparaged Asian Americans as a result of this virus. I mean, that's not true. Nobody fact-checked. CNN didn't fact-check that Joe Biden statement. But it would put Biden in a very difficult position if the president was saying CCP virus rather than China virus, would it not?
Yeah, linguistically, what you're doing is you're sort of anticipating what his response is going to be and then taking that off the table. So you're taking that option away from him. Well, if I say CCP, then I'm talking about the CCP. I'm clearly talking about their corruption, their malfeasance, their cover-ups. That's who I'm focused on. If you say China virus, then that opens you up to a variety of different tactics. Also, obviously, not every Asian here in America is Chinese, but what Biden said was that he broadened it even to say that the president was putting all Asians in, essentially threatening them, making it. It's a very AOC kind of argument where you don't get fact checked though, because there's one set of standards for that side and one set for ours.
Well, in the next segment, I want to get into the pandemic again, and specifically, like we're doing in this segment, to go through with specifics that the president could be doing, should be doing, what the cancellation of the RNC effectively means, and what it says about turning the tanker around. Before we go, I want to tell you guys about our sponsor, Birch Gold. $6 trillion already spent on COVID-19, national debt up to $26 trillion. Think about the impact that's going to have on the dollar. And by the way, look at the gold prices. Gold and silver are safe havens against uncertainty, and the company we trust with metals purchases is Birch Gold Group. So you can contact Birch Gold Group and get a free info kit on physical precious metals. See if diversifying into gold and silver makes sense for you. The 20-page kit reveals how gold and silver can protect your savings and how you can legally move your IRA or 401k out of risky stocks and bonds and into a precious metals IRA. So to get your no-cost, no-obligation kit, text Bannon, B-A-N-N-O-N, to 474747. That's Bannon to 474747. And for a limited time, you can see if you can qualify for $10,000 in free precious metals on your purchase. We'll be back. More War Room Pandemic with the two Jacks, the pair of Jacks, after the break.
Uh-oh, there you go. Slow slicing fruits, veggies, and those stinky onions that bring you to tears. But not anymore. Introducing NutriChopper, the compact handheld speed slicer that cuts up to 10 times quicker than a knife. Watch. You can have one slice or 10 perfect slices at once. Amazing! You can just julienne, or you can bundle slice julienne sticks at lightning speed. With NutriChopper, you can slice the entire onion or mince a mound of onions and never have time for tears. Why slice a single apple wedge when you can wedge it all in one snap? NutriChopper comes with the razor-sharp interchangeable stainless steel blades you need to make all of the cuts you want, and all incredibly quick. Chop thick slices, chop thin slices, chop cubes, chop sticks, and wedge whole fruits and vegetables in just 1 second. Slice it and cook it right in the pan, right on your stove. Chop and slice right into the pot for a family-sized stew with no mess. Snap and slice a fruit salad for the kids right into the bowl in seconds. Slice up a healthy salad for a quick and easy meal on the go. Cube meats and cheeses quick, in a snap. And NutriChopper comes with a perfect portion container and fresh keeping lid so you can slice it, seal it, and store it all in one. To clean, simply rinse or rack it in the dishwasher. Then lock it to store it safely in a drawer. And now the NutriChopper with the thin slice, thick slice, wedge, and cube blades, and the slice and store container and lid, a value of over $40, is yours for just $19.99. But wait! Order now and we'll even pay the shipping for you. You get the complete NutriChopper set with blades and container with lids, all for just $19.99 with free shipping. Here's how to order.
To order, call 1-800-927-4071 or go online at NutriChopper.com. That's 1-800-927-4071 or go to NutriChopper.com. Order now.
You hate coming home to a dark house, and leaving lights on all night drives utility bills out of sight. You need the Bell & Howell Bionic Spotlight, the outdoor motion sensor light that turns on the instant motion is detected and turns off when the motion stops. Bionic Spotlight is solar powered, so there's no expensive wiring or batteries to change. The instant the motion sensor detects movement, Bionic Spotlight triggers 8 high-intensity LED lights that shower the entire area with light and then shuts off 30 seconds after it stops. So you can spend hundreds of dollars on an outdoor lighting system, or you can get the motion-activated Bionic Spotlight for just $19.95 with free shipping. Bionic Spotlight is backed by our 5-year warranty. But wait, if you order right now, you can double the offer and get a second Bionic Spotlight. Just pay a separate fee. And when you call, ask about the contractor's discount on the complete 6-light home value set. Here's how to order.
Call 1-800-486-4451 or go to BionicSpotlight.com. That's 1-800-486-4451 or order online at BionicSpotlight.com.
Oh, yeah, that's...
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Welcome back to the War Room. Jack Maxey, Jack Posobiec, Raheem Kassam. I want to put this image on your screens now. The doctor is... was in the house yesterday at Nats. It was at Nats Stadium.
Yeah.
And can we zoom in on that? You know, Cuomo going up there. But by the way, remember, Dr. Fauci says New York did a great job. New York, Cuomo going up there saying, don't wear a chin strap, wear a mask, don't wear it on your chin, wear it on your face. Then he goes out and wears it on his chin, and he goes on a plane and wears it on his chin, and he comes back from his travels and he doesn't quarantine. And here's Dr. Fauci wearing his chin strap. I mean, the hypocrisy. I mean, I can't even. These guys, it's a joke. It's an absolute disgrace. They lecture us, say all day long, masks. A big raging argument in the United Kingdom now because some of the supermarket chains are saying, well, the government can mandate the mask, but we're not going to commit our time in policing the masks for them in our stores. If the government wants to do that, that's up to the government to do. What is going on?
Well, you know, I mean, I think everybody should understand this is the real danger of where this country has been going for 40 years. There are separate set of rules for the elites, and then you and me and the deplorables are expected not only to dig the holes, but pick up all the pieces. We are the backs behind this operation, and really we get treated very poorly. And seeing Fauci up there without his mask, to me, is a slap in the face. It shows that the people who are making decisions on our behalf truly do not care about us. They think about us as plebeians in their sort of chess game. It is time for the American people to recognize that this country was founded because of our veneration for the individual. This is not a country that is defined around the state apparatus as the Democrats would like us to change it. And we're watching this kind of soft totalitarianism creep around the country. You look at them, they want to have mandatory masks for everybody.
Well, did you hear Cuomo yesterday?
Yeah.
Because you're mentioning the soft tyranny. When he said, he's down in Savannah, Georgia, just to paint the picture, and he says, you can only be open if you're selling food, substantive food, not in bars.
If we can get that
bars
clip,
can do it. I'm like doing my Cuomo. Bars can be open, but only if they're serving soups and sandwiches. Basket of wings? No, basket of wings is not food.
No. He says chicken wings. All that.
No, I don't think so.
But then his spokesman, I believe his spokesman came out and said no. He was listing soups and sandwiches, and then saying no hors d'oeuvres, then going back to the list and saying yes, chicken wings.
So if I put two pieces pieces of bread around my chicken wings, does that make a chicken wing sandwich?
Well,
of course it does.
Yes,
it does.
He does have an excuse, as we know from his conversations with his brother Chris, or Fredo. It was Chris who spent all of his time in his mother's skirts in the kitchen, and the older brother really didn't do much in the kitchen. I think they had a conversation about that.
Oh my goodness!
But the buried
Didn't he
lead
spend
on
a
his
lot of time
trip
in
to
bleach baths as well?
buried lead on his trip to Georgia, to me, and it goes back to Fauci not wearing the mask at the Nationals game that you can't attend. There is a 14-day quarantine for anybody traveling from Georgia to New York State. Did Cuomo follow his own guideline?
He didn't follow his own guideline.
Did his staff follow his own guideline? No. This guy is a farce.
Well, I'm sure there's a lot of NYPD members who'd be happy to arrest him if that's the thing. I want to make sure we cover this Lancet thing as well. But Jack, you had what was the Belt and Road comment you wanted to make?
My saved round on that is one thing that we talked about something that the U.S. could use as a potential carrot to Russia. In getting the peel away from China. Russia has been playing lip service and has been going along with this One Belt, One Road initiative with China for quite some time now. If we want to peel them off, President Trump has spoken about bringing Russia back into the G8. So it's the G7 now, make it G8, make it conditional, and say, if you want this, and it doesn't have to necessarily be a big public speech or anything, but you got to pull out of that One Belt, One Road. Pick one side. Do you want to be with us or do you want to be with them? And put it in their court.
Jack, hit us on the Lancet. We've got a very short amount of time, and we've got so many things to cover. Hit us on the Lancet.
Okay, the Lancet, that once vaunted scientific journal, came out with an editorial today called COVID-19 and China, Lessons and the Way Forward. And essentially the way forward is for the entire world to start copying China on almost everything. It says that, they quote at the end, "Now is the time for global leaders to decide, will we succumb to chaos, division, inequality, or will we right the wrongs of the past and move forward together for the good of all?" That's from UN Secretary Guterres in his 2020 Nelson Mandela lecture. This is absolute nonsense. These people are running dogs. They talk about how China did it right. Of course, some of their methods were a little bit more aggressive than we could get. But they said that one of the best things that China did so well was that they had community spirit. Really?
Right.
This is insane, people.
Is that what Chairman Mao called it? Community spirit?
We got 2 minutes left here. I want to do very quickly on the RNC convention and the turning around of the tanker, Jack.
Look, you're seeing a huge pivot right now between the party, between the White House. We're at a 100-day sprint, which starts tomorrow, to Election Day. The president is now turning the ship around. He's looking at the pandemic. He's looking at the CCP. He's decided to shut this down. They had that beautiful map right next to him at the conference yesterday, something that I had called for, where you could see there were no numbers, there was no mumbo jumbo business talk about these what was that, Operation Warp Speed and the airlifters and nothing. It's just very simple communications. He's fighting it like the war he said he was going to.
And you're saying 100 days from tomorrow.
100 days from tomorrow.
You know, Jack, we've been talking about this as a wartime president. His campaign slogan is "Make America Great Again." America cannot be great unless we defeat the CCP. And we heard this yesterday from Pompeo. He said that the free world must triumph over this tyranny. President Trump has made it very clear that we need a strategy that protects the American people, our economy, and indeed our way of life from the CCP.
Amen.
I want to get Governor Cuomo to play us out here. Do we have the clip of Governor Cuomo? Let's roll it.
To be a bar, you had to have food available. Soups, sandwiches, etc. More than just hors d'oeuvres, chicken wings. You had to have some substantive food. The lowest level of substantive food were sandwiches. To be a bar...
chicken wings are not substantive food, so says Governor Cuomo. Hey, by the way, drums or flats?
Drums, absolutely.
Drums or flats?
None. Tomorrow we're gonna have.
Oh, he's a boneless guy.
Vish Burr. Next week, Vish Burr is gonna do his Governor Cuomo imitation.
Boneless, chicken-chested Jack Maxey. I'm a flats kind of guy myself. All right, War and Pandemic returns 10 a.m. tomorrow. #War and Pandemic. See you then.
Tired
Tired of struggling with regular mirrors that don't adjust so you can't get close enough? Need both hands but you don't have a stand? Can't move in the right direction to see your own reflection? You need Flexible Mirror, the bendable, light-up magnification mirror that comes to you. Watch. Just stick it on and turn the base. The super suction locking mechanism means you can put it on any smooth surfaced place, horizontal or vertical. Lock it onto any mirror, table, or desk. Use it in the shower, even on a window. The secret is Flexible Mirror's super strong articulating arm that's attached with an ingenious ball and socket so it can swivel and rotate for the perfect angle. And look how strong it holds. The mirror is precision crafted with 10 times magnification and crystal clear optics. And with a soft glow LED ring, you'll get picture-perfect lighting to highlight every detail. Flexible Mirror makes shaving, applying makeup, hairstyling, grooming, and accessorizing easier than ever before. Plus, men, listen up. The 10 times magnification makes it perfect for giving your beard a detailed trim. Whatever you need to do, Flexible Mirror comes to you. Plus, the contemporary chrome accents add a lovely modern touch to any room. Stop struggling to put in your delicate contacts and let Flexible Mirror come to you, so it's much easier to do. Similar mirrors can cost as much as $100, and they don't even come to you. But you can get Flexible Mirror for the special TV discount price of just $19.99. We guarantee you'll love the Flexible Mirror so much that it comes with our 90-day no questions asked money-back guarantee. And here's the best part. We give you free shipping on your entire order. That's right, free shipping. Here's how to order.
To order, call 1-800-987-6183. That's 1-800-987-6183 or order online at tryflexiblemirror.com.
Brett Favre, legendary quarterback. Jerry Rice, legendary wide receiver.
You ready for your weekly meeting?
Yeah, we're ready.
Let's do this. Let's stack the deck.
When legends play, they wear CopperFit Advanced Back Pro. CopperFit's best-selling compression back support just got better with new double-band adjustable supports for customizable compression when you need it most.
Since I put this on, I feel so much better. The core is the most important thing.
Absolutely.
To know that I'm stabilized here. Whatever I'm doing, I can give it 100%.
4 built-in stabilizing supports designed to improve posture and help reduce lower back stress and strain.
You have back pain, and it's affecting your everyday life. You do something.
If you can find something to help you get back out and be active like CopperFit, go for it.
Absolutely.
Do not give up.
A high-performance compression fabric infused with the powerful properties of copper, 360-degree flexible mobility, and lightweight, durable construction.
Nothing more painful than having back pains. If you're aching, if you feel like you can't work out anymore, you can. And that's with CopperFit.
Yeah. It's for all of us who still want to be active, still want to compete.
Way to go. That's what I'm talking about. Man, this really does feel good. It feels to me like the fountain of youth.
CopperFit's best-selling back support just got bigger, badder, and better. Or call 1-800-944-5851. Or on the web at advancedbackpro.com. Get yours now for only $19.99.
This does feel good.
That's what I've been saying.
You think it was fair?
It was fun.
Play for the love of the game.
CopperFit, live limitless.
You hate coming home to a dark house, and leaving lights on all night drives utility bills out of sight. You need the Bell & Howell Bionic Spotlight, the outdoor motion sensor light that turns on the instant motion is detected and turns off when the motion stops. Bionic Spotlight is solar powered, so there's no expensive wiring or batteries to change. The instant the motion sensor detects movement, Bionic Spotlight triggers 8 high-intensity LED lights that shower the entire area with light and then shuts off 30 seconds after it stops. So you can spend hundreds of dollars on an outdoor lighting system, or you can get the motion-activated Bionic Spotlight for just $19.95 with free shipping. Bionic Spotlight is backed by our 5-year warranty. But wait, if you order right now, you can double the offer and get a second Bionic Spotlight. Just pay a separate fee. And when you call, ask about the contractor's discount on the complete 6-light home value set. Here's how to order.
Call 1-800-486-4451 or go to BionicSpotlight.com. That's 1-800-486-4451 or order online at BionicSpotlight.com.
America's Voice News brings you real news and real opinion in a real world. If you care about this country, then you can help by sharing America's Voice with your friends and family. We're here to bring you the truth with no agendas. America is one of the greatest countries of all time. We need a great leader to keep us on track and safe. If you support this president, then help us by being a beacon of hope and standing up for this great nation. Join us as we fight to bring you the truth in a crazy world. Search America's Voice News on all apps, Roku, Pluto TV, and Dish Network Channel 219. Please help by downloading America's Voice News to your phone, on your smart TV. Search America's Voice on all your internet-connected devices. Then share the truth with your friends and family. America's Voice News, the real news network. Join the America's Voice revolution and consider yourself an American patriot.
Frustrated with heavy rubber hoses that always get tangled and easily kink? Introducing the Bionic Flex Pro hose, the super strong, super tough hose that's ultra light as well. Run over an ordinary hose and it'll easily burst, but the Bionic Flex Pro hose stays intact no matter what runs over it, because its reinforced drag-resistant commercial-grade outer polyester weave makes it tougher and stronger than ever. And its solid brass fittings are crush-proof too. Ordinary hoses kink easily and stop working, but the Bionic Flex Pro hose never kinks. It just keeps flowing strong. And while regular hoses easily get tangled, the Bionic Flex Pro hose is tangle-proof. You can get the 25-foot Bionic Flex Pro hose for just $19.95 with free shipping. But wait, order today and we'll upgrade your order to a 50-foot Bionic Flex Pro hose. Just pay a separate fee, and shipping is still free. Go now.
Call 1-800-313-8062.
I just washed myself in cleanser. Once again, for your safety, not my own, I'm Steve Gurr. God bless America. It's the Steve Gurr Show. For Friday, July 24, 2020, here are 3 big things you need to know right now. Number 3, the surge in gun ownership in America is being fueled by a huge uptick in black gun owners. That's right, black gun owners. In fact, among blacks, the increase in buying firearms is a whopping 58.2% of the guns being sold. Number 2, there appears to be a growing level of sickness in America, complete depravity, whether it's a guy with 260 felonies gunning down 3 young men going fishing, or a man kneeling hard on the neck of a 2-year-old white girl to support Black Lives Matter. It is, by definition, evil. And number 1, how about a catch-all for Friday? Maybe a Friday deep cleanse. I mean, the stories pile up here every day. I've got a desk covered in stories here that I just try to keep up on and never make it to. I'll start with the outrageous from the media. Declaring Florida a disaster zone. Grim statistic and all of this as the coronavirus numbers increase. And then the media breathlessly covers 147 deaths in Florida. 147 deaths in Florida. But apparently fails to tell anyone that Florida has less deaths than, say, Michigan or New Jersey, and only a fraction of the people that died in New York. And New York's record days were north of 800 deaths in a single day, and Florida is a bigger state. The idea was to flatten the curve, not flatten America. Or did I miss that? Was it really about flattening America? Because every time we get close to solving problems and getting close, the goalposts move. The goal was to prevent overwhelming hospital systems. The goal was to prevent too many people going to the hospital at the same time and a giant spike. We accomplished that all over the country. There are debates over what worked and what didn't. Did lockdowns work? Were they not useful? Do masks work? Are they just for show? These conversations continue, but what is not deniable is the fact that we flattened the curve. We flattened the curve from the imperial model that predicted 2.2 million dead in America in 2020. We flattened the curve from those that said it would be 220,000 dead in 2020. We're at about 145,000 dead attributed to COVID-19. But a lot of people believe that those numbers are being padded, including people in the healthcare industry. The debate over whether COVID deaths are being counted accurately or unfairly, the only way to figure that out in the end, of course, is to look at excess deaths. We won't have those numbers for a while. But we continue to evaluate these things and try to figure it out. Right now, it looks as if there might be a peak and a plateau in Texas, Arizona, Florida, and these other locations when it comes to COVID overall and coronavirus overall. So we hope that that is, in fact, the case. The cases for the United States, the deaths, 1,082. Confirmed new cases, 70,000. Obviously, that is a big number. But many of those people, and in fact, I know some people right now in quarantine because they have family members who have tested positive. In Florida, the new number, by the way, 173 deaths, 10,000 cases of new cases in Florida. So that's remaining about the same where it's been for a while. It's high, but flat. In Texas, the number is, let's see here, Texas updates, 173 dead in Texas as well. Amazing. Same number. 9,507 new cases in Texas, state of 30 million. The point that I'm making here is, again, the need for panic is not needed. There is no need for panic. We need to be calm. All right, so I've got this whole pile. I'm going to dig through it. I'm going to dig through it just for sport and see what we can cover here today. Let's start with Charlemagne the God. Charlemagne the God, who had an argument with Joe Biden here recently. Charlemagne the God, who had Joe Biden tell him, if you vote for Donald Trump, you're not black. That worked out well. Well, Charlemagne the God back in the news today. The Breakfast Club radio host blasting the former vice president. He says Biden should shut the F up forever after calling Trump the first racist president. That happened Wednesday. Biden took aim at the president, alleging racism, suggesting it's historic compared to his predecessors. No sitting president has ever done this. No Republican president done this. No Democratic president. We've had racists, and they've existed. They've tried to get elected president. He's the first one that has, said Biden. Charlemagne declared the presumptive Democratic candidate Thursday's donkey of the day. How's that outreach to African-American voters going, Joe? I really wish Joe Biden would shut the F up forever and continue to act like he's starring in the movie A Quiet Place. Because as soon as he opens his mouth and makes noise, he gets us all killed. Okay? That's Charlemagne the God. There's already been so many people who are reluctantly only voting for Joe because he's the only option against Trump. Yeah, he's not helping himself. He cited the polling that we've cited here, did Charlemagne. The enthusiasm gap. The enthusiasm gap. 85% of those that are voting for Trump want to. Less than 30% are voting for Biden feel enthusiastic to do so. They're just doing it because they want to vote against Donald Trump. And speaking of Joe Biden, can somebody decipher this next piece for me? I've got a little tidbit here for you, a little piece for you to decipher. The latest patronizing and, I say, racist comment from Joe Biden himself. It's bite number one. You tell me your thoughts. Go.
Look what he's doing now. He's blaming everything on China. He's blaming everything on the Chinese. He's blaming everything, and people don't make a distinction. as you well know, with a South Korean and someone from Beijing. They make no distinction. It's Asia. And that's the way he's just using it as a wedge.
The Chinese and the South Korean, there's no distinction. They all look the same. Really, Joe? That's what you want to go with. There's no distinction. They don't know the difference between South Koreans and Chinese. Good work, Joe. By the way, the president canceling the Jacksonville portion of the Republican convention plan for August due to COVID. That's been set aside. He said it's not a good idea right now. The timing for the event not right. Nothing more important than keeping our people safe, says the president yesterday. Of course, it has the Democrats on the left howling. Well, where was he before? Why didn't he have this before? Why is he just doing this now? Well, because there were a lot of indications 6 weeks ago that this was tapering off more than it has. That's why. There are a lot of indications that the virus will be tapering off faster than it is at the moment. It will taper off again. We'll see where we go. We could have another wave like this. We could be having waves like this for the next 5 years. Are we going to shut down the country each time it happens? You heard me yesterday, 55%. According to Yelp, 55% of restaurants in this country that closed temporarily are now closed permanently, out of business. You think about that. You think about that. It's 14 after. I'm going to dig through this pile. We're going to catch up on Friday. If you need something, it's the Common Sense Hotline, 888-900-9966 on The Steve Gruber Show.
The hottest new razor is taking the men's grooming world by storm. And if you don't have it, you need it. MicroTouch Solo, the hyper-advanced full-body razor that trims, shapes, edges, and even shaves with micro-precision. And it's totally safe to the touch. Go solo for full-body control with one tool. No nicks, bumps, or ingrown hairs. Edge beards and goatees with one touch. Clean your neck, barber shop perfect. And check this out. Snap on the guide to tame growth and perfectly shape your full beard. And keep new growth stubble trimmed exactly to your style. And look, the Solo Full Body Groomer trims precisely the length of hair you want. Snap off the guide and remove unwanted hair anywhere in seconds. What makes Solo different than your ordinary razor? Dual-sided German stainless steel blade. Shave up or down at 200 microstrokes per second. The Ultra Flex pivoting head contours perfectly to you for precise results. 3 custom grooming guides for control of exact length and shape. And a built-in LED light so you never miss a spot. Solo is so precise, you need no creams, no soaps, and no water. Ditch the old man clippers and toss the scissors. You've got to go solo. Call 1-800-709-9777 or go online at microtouchsolo.com and get yours now for only $19.99. Complete with German stainless steel blade, pivoting head, built-in spotlight, and 3 custom grooming guides. Everything you see here for just $19.99. The all-new MicroTouch Solo Full Body Groomer. The one tool that does it all.
like Houston's going to get hit with a tropical depression, tropical disturbance, just in time for COVID. We'll see how that plays out. The president likely to sign some executive orders today on drug pricing. It's a big deal. Could save money for people all over the country. The executive orders aimed at lowering drug prices, elevating a key issue for voters in an election year. And I'm sorry, but as you look at Joe Biden alienating black voters again, incoherent too often, having no idea what he's talking about, it's painful to watch. Republican lawmakers have been invited to a presidential event on drug pricing today at 3 o'clock at the White House in the South Court Auditorium to make the announcement. That according to The Hill. The exact details of the orders remain unclear, but sources say one order is likely to include a version of a proposal to reduce some U.S. drug prices by tying them to the lower prices paid in other countries. Price controls. We'll see if that happens. Not a good idea if that's what it is. I'm not a big fan of price controls, as you can imagine, because I think it stifles innovation and so forth. Meanwhile, however, the pursuit of a vaccine continues, with Pfizer and others leading the charge. And make no mistake, if a vaccine is found before Election Day and confirmed and in mass production and being rolled out to the people, changes everything. Talk about an October surprise. Let's see here. Maryland Governor Larry Hogan says, and he is an anti-Trump guy. This is not a Trump fan, but he's a guy who's been honest about the response from the federal government. He's been mostly complimentary, but some criticisms to the federal government. Doesn't like Trump. That's quite clear. But he says the idea of defunding the police is the worst idea ever. This whole hands-off approach is the worst idea ever, he says. Absolutely absurd, absolutely obscene. The worst idea I can possibly imagine. And decried mobs tearing down statues in a wide-ranging interview here earlier this week. By the way, another statue torn down just last night. Yes, another statue torn down just last night in Chicago. Looking for the story here, but the Columbus statue came down in Chicago last night as a result of Mayor Lightweight, Lori Lightweight, the mayor of Chicago, unable to control anything. Workers arrived under the cover of darkness early this morning to remove a Christopher Columbus statue from Chicago's Grant Park 1 week after rioters were repelled by police as they attempted to tear down the statue. The statue being removed, they say, to de-escalate tensions between protesters and police. As unrest continues, of course, the slaughter continues in the streets. That according to the Chicago Tribune. Videos and images posted on social media show the statue draped in a cloth as a crane pulled up to dislodge the statue from a pedestal before driving off. No word on where it's going. The decision to remove the statue, a reversal for Lightweight, who said in the past that removing Columbus statues erases history. Chicago must be proud of this mayor. Must be very proud of this mayor. What a joke. What a joke. The Windy City in trouble again. The U.S. consulate in Chengdu will be closed. That's in response from the Chinese to the Americans because we shut down their Houston operation for espionage and stealing intellectual property and IT. What a shock. You probably saw the video of the Chinese in the alley burning everything. They have to be out today, I believe. Being tossed out of Houston, the Chinese ordered the U.S. to close the Chengdu consulate in retaliation for the Houston shutdown order. And it's like, okay, so it is. Get out. Tensions rising between the two countries. Meanwhile, Russia secretly testing an anti-satellite space weapon. That according to U.S. Space Command. The Kremlin's military push to use weapons in space puts U.S. and allied space assets at serious risk, said the U.S. Space Command. That warning yesterday. Researchers said they have evidence that Russia conducted a non-destructive test of a space-based anti-satellite weapon. On July 15, Russia injected a new object into orbit from Cosmos 2543, the satellite which was spotted earlier this year stalking spy satellite USA 245, which snaps intelligence photos of Earth for the Pentagon. On its website, Putin's space agency says its satellite was launched November 25, about 500 miles north of Moscow. So, there you go. And here's maybe the most disturbing and disgusting story well, in a while. The most disgusting story in a while. You've probably seen this image. An Ohio man who was out on parole has been thrown back in jail, thankfully, rightfully so, and awaits new felony charges after a photo circulated on social media showing him posing with his knee on the neck of a crying, screaming 2-year-old white boy, along with a message saying how he supported Black Lives Matter. He's got his knee on the throat of a white child. His knee on the throat of a white child. The Clark County Sheriff's Office became aware of the photo circulating on the media on Tuesday. Appears to be directed a reference to the former Minnesota police officer Derek Chauvin, who put his knee on the neck of George Floyd. But this is the kind of atmosphere being promoted by the far left in this country. It's sad. It's sad. How could anybody think that it's appropriate to put their knee on the throat of a 20-month-old toddler screaming and crying because it's a white child and because you believe in Black Lives Matter? Do you really think that promotes the message? Do you think that really helps promote what you're talking about in any fashion? This man ought to be in jail for a very long time. For a very long time. It's 25 after. It's disgusting. 25 after. You're in the No Panic Zone here on the Steve Gruber Show. More enlightening and uplifting news, I promise. Right after the break. Don't go anywhere.
Hi, Hunter Ellis here for Night Hero Binoculars by Atomic Beam. These binoculars let you see anything, even in pitch black darkness. Gotcha. The secrets are powerful wide-angle atomic beam laser that reveals objects up to 150 yards away, hidden by darkness. During the day, Night Hero gives you 10 times magnification, and when the sun goes down, press the Night Bright button to see clearly in the dark. Light up garbage-eating critters, or spot thieves before they even get close. Call or click now and get Night Hero binoculars with laser illumination technology for just $39.99. You'll also get a protective carrying case, yours free. Order right now and you can double it. Plus, get our best-selling atomic beam flashlight, just pay separate fee. We'll even ship them to you free. You can get it all, but you have to order now.
Call 1-800-788-1008. That's 1-800-788-1008. Or visit buynighthero.com. That's buynighthero.com. Order now.
Back at it, and here's some good news for you. I like this usually, not always, but I like this usually. The Great American Outdoors Act. The Great American Outdoors Act passed on Wednesday of this week out of the Senate, already passed by the House, supported by both Republicans and Democrats, all but guaranteeing it will go into law. First passed in June, the bill will fully and permanently fund the Land and Water Conservation Fund, a government-sponsored fund for public land maintenance projects. Pushed in large part by Cory Gardner of Colorado, who said it's an incredible and historic moment for the people of Colorado. It is the biggest public lands bill for the people of Colorado and this nation in over 50 years. The bill now goes to the desk of President Donald Trump, who previously said he would sign it. The Great American Outdoors Act has enjoyed support from Democrats and Republicans. And Democrats and Republicans are praising it, including the other senator from Colorado, Michael Bennet. He said these are critical investments in public lands, and it's also takes away one of the criticisms, if you will, of the president, who people say is not in tune with the environment. The president has passed more legislation and signed more legislation into law protecting the environment by far than the 8 years of Barack Obama. In fact, I'm going to make a little project for you for next week. I'm going to compile a list of the important environmental legislation put forth by the president, some defending the right to hunt and fish, some like this Great American Outdoors Act and others, plus set-asides for wilderness lands and national forests and so forth. This has been going on since Donald Trump was president. Of course, you don't hear about that because you get to hear about Russia and COVID-19 and all these other things. You don't hear about the important things that can impact your life and your children's and grandchildren's life that are really important and good. You should be aware of these things. We'll have more on that. I'm going to put together the list because you're probably not going to get it anywhere else. The list of good conservation measures signed into law by President Donald Trump, it's quite substantial and impressive. It is 29 after here on the program. Coming up, Dr. Lauren Wright will join me. We're going to talk about the desecration and destruction of Christian monuments all over the country and all over the world. Don't go anywhere.
Stay tuned to get a free pan from Granite Stone. Stuck on eggs, burnt on batter. You can scrub and scrape, but you can't escape the nightmare of your sticky pans. Introducing the Granite Stone Pan, the all-new durable non-stick pan. No butter or oil needed. Watch, we melted down these sticky candies in Granite Stone, and it just doesn't stick. We cooked a half a dozen eggs, bacon, cheese, and tomato breakfast with no butter or oil, and it just doesn't stick. Look, caramels, chocolate, and cheese. Unreal for any other pan, but not for Granite Stone. It just doesn't stick. Granite Stone will be the last pan you'll ever need because it's pressed from a solid aluminum disc for even heat conduction, then coated 3 times with our durable Granite Stone finish. Granite Stone is metal utensil safe and won't scratch. And talk about non-stick. This salmon cooked skin side down with no added butter or oil just doesn't stick. This steak is perfectly seared just like the pros. And because Granite Stone is oven rated to 500 degrees, we bake this upside down pan pizza to perfection, and it just doesn't stick. Fire Flambe Delicious Cherries Jubilee. Plus it's PFOA free and 100% dishwasher safe. Call or go online to get your Granite Stone pan for the special TV discount price of just $19.99. Granite Stone is so durable it comes with a 10-year warranty. And with every order, you're going to get a Granite Stone single-serve egg pan absolutely free. It's the perfect size for personalized eggs, omelets, or frittatas that slide right out. It makes the best bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich quick. Yours absolutely free. We'll even ship your entire order free. That's right, free shipping. You get it all, an incredible value. Here's how to order.
To order, call 1-800-850-0237. That's 1-800-850-0237, or order online at buygranitestone.com. That's 1-800-850-0237. Call now.
All right, welcome back to it. Steve Gruber Show on a Friday. Joining me now, Dr. Lauren Wright, here on Fridays with me to correct me when I'm wrong, and kind of set me on my course a little more accurately. Lauren, welcome back. How are you?
Hi, Steve. I appreciate that. You're right sometimes too, though.
Well, pretty much all the time, but it's okay. I understand. I get it. Anyhow, I see at 3:15 this morning local time in Chicago, Mayor Lori Lightweight decided to tear down the statue of Christopher Columbus that she said she wouldn't tear down, that just a week ago the Chicago Police Department was defending. She did this by executive order, and apparently a whole host of people not impressed by this move, especially the Italian Americans. Pasqua Gianni of the Joint Civic Committee of Italian Americans responded and said the Italian American community feels betrayed by the mayor, giving into a vocal and destructive minority. This is the argument playing out across America right now, because first it was Confederate symbols and statues, then it was George Washington and Thomas Jefferson, it's Christopher Columbus, it's white Jesus, according to some Democrats. I mean, this is not okay, is it?
Well, look, I think the mistake that she made, if there's one, and, you know, I'm still reading about this, but if the city council did not vote on this, then she really has no political cover here, because at least as any kind of executive, mayor, governor, president, you want to rely on some kind of voting body to demonstrate that there's consensus about this. But the criticism
but hold on. The consensus in America right now is Democrat governors. Democrat governors can do what they want under the guise of emergency orders. There are no legislatures. There are no city councils. There is no accountability to the people who elected the representatives